Nice.
And oh yeah, it was just back in the day. It was a good time. You expecting quite a few people?
Oh, I never know, and it doesn't matter. We're talking.
Oh, okay. I dig it. I dig it.
Who knows?
Uh,
It's the internet. We got
yeah.
Susie. Welcome aboard, Susie.
Hi.
Yeah. So, what got you into the music concert business?
Well, music collecting. I was a record collector from when I started as a kid, and all the record stores around here were pretty. We knew all that. But I was also a bootleg collector.
Nice.
Oh yeah, and what had happened was somebody in St. Louis got busted, and hello Susie, and they started taking them all off the shelf. They took them off the shelf at the biggest store in St. Louis. Then I went out and decided I'm going to become a bootlegger.
Did you have those old school typewriter written catalogs and right that you send in the mail, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the ones you find in the back of the Gold Mine magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. I was buying videos from was it Living Under Midnight, something Living After Midnight videos. This guy was in New York, and oh yeah, I was spending all kinds of money with that guy. And I mean, that's what you did back in the day. There was no internet, or you weren't on the internet, and that's how pretty much we collected a lot of stuff. But then what happened? We found a couple of stores that started importing all those bootlegs from Italy. That's where the majority of them were being made back in the 90s, and they were shipping these recordings under the guise as being imports, and these things actually even had like a tax stamp on them. It was weird, and it's just the way it was. But we were paying quite a bit of money for these. Back in the 90s, they were paying like either $30 to $60 a disc.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't cheap. But the fad wore out. I stopped after 2011 because the phones were coming out. I was the last of the Mohicans mainly, and all I was basically doing was sneaking in a mini disc recorder and a stereo microphone, and I pretty much bootlegged in every room in St. Louis.
Nice.
Yeah, it wasn't hard. No, got caught a few times. I mentioned the time I got caught at the Cheap Trick show. They were doing a free show underneath the arch of and what happened was they had a little reserve section there for their people who sponsored the event. So they'd bring their people in, allow them set up near the stage, and then they didn't have they had more chairs than people. Then they started letting the crowd in, and I'm walking in, and I have simply this recorder in my pocket with some wires hanging out, and next thing you know, I got this. I actually have all this recorded. The security guy comes up and starts, well, I'm going to have to take your stuff. I go, hey, giving you a damn thing. And he goes, well, then you got to go. All they simply did was kick me out of the reserve section. I walked around behind the ropes and continued recording the show. That's all it was.
Nice.
Yeah. But I did disrupt the show. That was about the worst of it.
I'm sure the show didn't care. Show moved on. You were one of 10 people that got grabbed, shoved out the door, forgotten about, left on, moved on.
You're right.
I mean, back in the day, everyone was freaked out about recordings, but more people were freaked out about photography.
Yeah, that's what that Guns N' Roses riot happened near my home in 91. I don't know if you recall that or not.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was at that place had just opened up, probably been open not even no more than a year. And he was complaining about people for shooting pictures. Yeah. But I didn't make my stuff for profit. I just made my stuff for pleasure. I haven't made a dime off of any of that. And that wasn't my intent. Like I said, I was a collector, was making my own because they stopped selling the things that we wanted to collect.
And I tell you, looking back on it, it was really a mistake by the artists to clamp down so much on illegal photography at concerts, because here we are 30 years later, and where are all the shots? Where are all these pictures? Where are all these all of this documentation of all these shows, where they didn't bring in a professional photographer with before everyone had a video camera in their pocket.
Right.
It was a big deal for someone to pull out a phone, pull out a camera, take a flash, all of us from the stage to see it. And, and the thing that's funny too is like, you're not hiding in the crowd.
No.
We see where you're at. We saw what the flash was. I mean, back when it was the flash and the big deal, it was really easy to direct security to go grab people.
Even, back when you were younger, they were actually bringing in Super 8 cameras.
Oh yeah.
So there's some of that stuff I've seen quite a bit of, but those even had sound, but you could only do like 5-10 minutes at a time. And then, that is pretty much that. But, there's a lot of famous recordings out there. It's not as collectible as it once was because it's been saturated and the internet has really shrank, so everybody pretty much wound up with the same collections. That's all it ever turned out to be.
Interesting. Back in the 70s, buddy of mine was sold bootleg albums. And I had the Led Zeppelin albums. I had all the Aerosmith. There was a ton of, there was and there were the albums.
Yeah, these would have the little Xerox things in the front. They were like, the albums were like, the sleeves are plain white with the Xerox pieces in it.
Yeah, if it was classy, it had some stolen artwork.
Yeah. Or
shoved in there. Yeah, some kind of color picture. But and all the recordings were pretty horrible. But it's great to have it's great to have that timestamp of what that show was.
And that's how I learned about the buildings that you've all been in. Like the Angora, the Madison Square Gardens, even the buildings overseas like Earl's Court. Have you been in Earl's Court?
No, I've not.
Wow, that'd be a bucket.
But I've been to the Hammersmith Odeon.
Okay.
Where Motorhead did their famous show. And I was thrilled to be there. I was thrilled to be there, just for that. But you bring up an interesting point, because that's the thing about these recordings is like, where is it? When I worked at Radio City, when I started at Radio City in 1997.
Wow.
Right. Back then, if you push the record button on your cassette player, it was an automatic $60,000. Right. We didn't care that you're recording it for your own purposes. It doesn't matter if there's a truck outside attached to it. It's 60 grand. And the reason, because it's live at Radio City Music Hall. Yeah. And the same thing at Madison Square Garden. It's live at Madison Square Garden. When it's live from Biloxi, nobody gives a shit.
No, but yeah, there were definitely a lot of those people did get in trouble. But there was a lot of pro guys out there. There was one guy that was sneaking he was pretending he was in a wheelchair and he had the recorder underneath him somehow and the mic's leading up through the chair and he was able to and he did a fantastic job. He got some early
I love that guy.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah. Oh, I did all my stuff. It was, like I said, it was for myself. A lot of people think, oh, you're exploiting the artist. I'm like, no, I feel I am making a tribute for the artist. And any live show that people could have heard back in the day was free publicity, man.
I agree with you. And I'll say two things on that. Well, first off, I agree with you from that perspective. The second thing I'll say is that when I was a tour manager, and I showed up at some festival and I saw a t-shirt that had my band's name on it with a bunch of other ones, I would immediately get the sheriff, get the lawyers involved, like immediately and shut this thing down and stop the sale of those, because you're making money off my band's name. How do I know that that person isn't buying it for my band's purposes? Is it making a situation for now we're not selling shirts? Am I selling less shirts because you're selling a shirt? And when you're out there looking out for the interest of the artist, you know, you have to take that hard. You got to be a dick about it because
Oh yeah,
everyone's trying to make a buck, you know.
like Peter Grant, the guy that used to be the manager for the Led Zeppelin.
My
He would
hero.
actually, oh, he would go beat the shit out of people. Yeah, he did not. He was a wrestler at one time, I guess, before he became a manager, right?
Yeah, but that goes so far, and for a lot of reasons, you know, that goes so far because anywhere you go, there's police, there's security, there's this and that, you know. It's really holding your demeanor that you're not going to be bowled over, you know,
Right.
that you're not going to be bullied. I mean, there's plenty of ghetto gigs out there where shit goes sideways and
Yeah.
everything's going awry.
I was one of them. Oh yeah.
You
Except the
know,
ghetto I was living next to was all white ghetto, so it was even scarier.
oh please, yeah. I mean, I grew up in Ohio.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Oh my.
Yeah,
Went to school with all those kids and everything else like that. It was good times though. I've never had too much trouble with any of the artists or anything, so knock on wood.
nice. Brian,
But
welcome back to the room.
Hello,
Tara,
sir.
everybody else, welcome here. You got anything to say? Just jump right in.
I want to, as I use in education, piggyback off what you mentioned about where is all this documentation, and then what Mr. Fred mentioned about, you know, the Super 8s. About 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Super 8 footage from one of Elvis's Madison Square Garden concerts was uncovered. And it was from that weekend that he recorded live at Madison Square Garden. And they had, you know, audio to go with it. So they matched it up. And it was a really, really big deal because it showed Elvis in his prime.
Yeah.
And it was such a big deal that they uncovered this footage it was fan footage that they included it on this.
Oh,
And it's
nice.
called Prince from Another Planet. So if you go to YouTube and you put up like Prince from Another Planet, you'll be able to see it. And it's like, it's Super 8 footage from the audience, but queued up with the audio that they recorded for, they were
right.
recording that.
Also, they
week.
synced it up.
Yes, it's perfect. And it's that just, you know, shows what you just said. Where's all the documentation? I think it's
Yep.
so great that they have that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you got Aloha from Hawaii, then you got that one in 77 where he didn't look too great. But
Yeah.
this, man, he was on top of his game. So
I felt so sad for him in that movie. Did you ever get to see that movie?
the new one or
Yeah, the one with Tom Hanks.
no, I haven't. And the reason being because I saw him twice. And so it's difficult for me to, that's my cat. My cat
Yeah.
just jumped up here. My cat's name is Elvis. And it's just difficult for me to like try to see that because I don't want to ruin anything.
Right. Yeah. But
So
I tried to watch it in a hotel. I fell asleep.
oh yeah. I just, and I guess the same thing with the Bohemian Rhapsody. It's like, you know, I remember these musicians this way, and I don't know if I want to see them being
real.
betrayed.
well, yeah, he was betrayed.
Yeah.
He was totally stepped on his whole entire career, and that's what made it so sad about it. You know, but sometimes you got to make a deal with the devil before you get to heaven, I guess.
Right.
All true. Brother in the center box, welcome to the show.
It's got a Slayer shirt on.
Dig that. Dig that.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this, man.
Oh man, I'm all about it.
I watch your videos just about every other night as they go up and laugh.
You don't come to
because
me to
I've been
get your
on
money
the
back.
outside. Yeah. Well, I mean, laugh just to get like a behind the scenes view of what you experience. I'm probably one of the few concert goers that seeks you and your contemporaries out to say, hey, thanks for being here and putting a show on for us.
Well,
So to
appreciate
really
you, brother.
get a behind the scenes look and understanding, man, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, man. I'm just you know, I'm just sharing with what I do, you know, and I've just been doing it for so long. You know, it's just the natural progression of things, man, you know.
It's also cool to see those rooms as they're being built.
You know, here's the thing is that I'm really not that guy to walk around all day holding my fucking camera. you know, because that's just
Yeah.
not, it's just not what I'm all about. And I
Well,
actually bought a body cam, right? And I was
right.
like, oh, I'll wear that. But it's like, nah, that's not cool either, because I walk in and out of situations,
Yeah. You're having
that are
intimate
walking out of.
conversations, yeah, with people that might not want to be recorded either. You never know.
Yeah. And I never, ever, ever fucking ever show the artist,
Oh.
because first off, they're uninteresting, and it's just a decorum thing,
Right.
all the stuff that that nobody cares about, all the stagehand stuff audio guys are doing, lighting, video, pyro, carpenters.
You're kind of like staying in your lane. That's.
What else you guys got, man?
I have one question.
Boot 'em up.
When you lower those chains, how are those motors? Are they being fed from the floor up, or are they coming from the ceiling down?
That is an excellent question, and I'm going to tell you what's happening. On those videos that you're watching from this last Jingle Ball tour that I did, right?
Right.
Basically, that PA is the same, no matter what. For those kind of iHeartRadio concerts, it's basically the same, right?
Right.
And what happens in the morning is that we figure the plot out on the floor. Everything's drawn out on the floor, right? And then the downriggers figure out the Pythagorean theorem. Do you know what that is?
No, I'm not. I've only got algebra 2 math as far as I went.
we're gonna take you up a click, and here's how it goes. You have an item that you want 60 feet in the air, right? You know that the ceiling is 120 feet. You know where the floor is, right? So we want to hang that 60 feet up, right? But here's the problem. There's a beam 10 feet out this way, and there's a beam 2 feet, 3 inches out that way. How are we going to line that so it's at the point that I want? And how are we going to make that bridle so it hits the exact height, so when I lift the whole thing up in the air, right? And that's where Pythagorean theorem comes in. It's a equation that tells you the third side of a triangle when you do not know the third side. When you know the two sides of the triangle, which is basically what we're doing in a 3D environment, we figure out the third side of the triangle, and that's how that math works. That said, that's how we figure out how to put together the bridle on the floor, because it's the motor, it's the chain attached to the motor, right? And then after that, it hits a series of shackles and steel rope. It might be a 10-foot steel rope on one side, a 25 on the other side. We might need to add 2 links and 2 shackles or 2 deck chains to make the appropriate height, to make it to the inch where that chain hangs, right?
Right.
The riggers pull that up, they wrap it around the beams, and then we attach it electrically to a motor distro that's on the floor.
Okay.
Right. And that cable travels up with the bundles, with all the speaker cable, usually 9 times out of 9 times on a cable truss that we send up, so that we don't have all this cable hanging everywhere.
Okay.
Right. You notice that you see all this audio system, but you don't see any cable, because all that cable hits a truss, usually 60 feet long, which is 323 bundles of 210s that we leave together.
Yeah.
And then we drop it all. And back on the upstage, right where the amp rack is.
Are those motors remote controlled wirelessly, or how are you powering from the when you're on the stage?
With the motor controller.
Okay.
With the motor controller. So it's 2 things. It's the physical electricity for the 1-ton motor, which runs 8 amps per motor. And then we have 2-ton motors, which run a little hotter. We usually run the 2 tons on the downstage points of the main PA, because I'm picking up 5,000 pounds.
Right.
And so I have a 2-ton on the downstage, what we call the downstage point, and the 2 upstage points for the main rig is 2 1-tons. And the reason that there's 2 is because we use that to steer it.
Oh, okay.
Because once we get it up there, we got a laser that's sighted on the top of the rig that's shooting to the back of the room.
Yeah.
Once the equation is put in, right, for the rig, once the equation's put in, it's all about dialing it in very specifically because it's almost EQing itself.
Yeah.
Right. It's that good these days.
Oh, cool.
It's all about the hang. If the hang's fucked up,
wow.
you know.
What was the worst building you probably had to that was so sketchy you didn't want to hang the speakers from?
Chastain Park, Atlanta, Georgia.
He answered that too quick, dude.
Oh yeah. I was there in 1997 on the Fossil Rock tour. It was Cloister Cult, Pat Travers,
Castaneda.
the original Foghat, and Steppenwolf.
I've seen Steppenwolf before. That was cool.
Yeah, and funny thing about the tour, it was just like that movie, The Producers. They put that tour together so it would fail because the producer was making too much money and he needed a loser. And they're expecting the tour just to lose money, and that's what they wanted, right? First show of the tour was Cedar Rapids, Iowa. They had to shut the highway down for 10 fucking miles with people trying to get into that show.
Wow.
It's sold out every night.
So what do they get, an insurance payment if they don't make so much or something? Is that
They
what
bet? I don't know. It's not my department, but all I
okay.
know is that they wanted it to take a loss, and that did not happen.
Wow.
You know, so anyways, Chastain Park, we got there, we hang the PA, and on stage left, and the first thing that happened was the steel beams twisted. And I was like, holy Jesus, bring it down to the ground. And the head rigger said to me, direct quote, if we spin the span sets around, the steel will twist the other way and then it will be okay. I said, brother, there ain't nothing that's structural integrity to this building that should be twisting, that I should be hanging anything bigger than a napkin from.
Wow.
And we ended up stacking the PA there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, if you did it manually. But I guess you can't stack those curved ones, can you?
Well, this was pre that. We were back with the old, what we called the missiles, the MSL3s. They looked like tall, skinny refrigerators.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, about 6 foot high, about 2 feet wide, maybe 2.5 feet wide.
I do have another question, if I may.
Go ahead.
Those speaker stacks, I remember you ripping those clips out, the pins that are in the sides.
Yep.
How are they all powered in series with those clips, or are they just attached?
Those pins are only rigging points that physically attach the boxes together. You know, and the speaker cable runs down the back of the rig. You know.
Okay.
I mean, the cable, on a big rig like that, I've got 2 cables per array, and the cable is 1.5 pounds per foot.
Damn.
You know, so the cable, just the cable,
wow,
just the cable is something to contend with. You know.
Has a crackhead ever showed up and tried to steal your cables?
Crackhead.
Yeah, like you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, I mean, you just
you don't know what a crackhead is.
Where is my next gig? It's Los Angeles.
Oh,
and it's the iHeart Alter Ego.
Huh.
Something.
Well,
and who's performing? I have no idea.
No, I don't watch that stuff. That's music below my pay grade. I don't pay attention to any of that stuff. You know, with the dancing and all that stuff. I'm not about all that.
I don't care. I don't get to choose who the wind-up monkey hitting the cymbals together up on the deck is. I just don't care. I just don't get to choose. All the bands that I ever wanted to see, I saw them except for a couple. And even though I do have some faith that we will see a resurgence. You know, my granddaughter, she's 13. I bought her first SG this year.
Wow.
And she called me wanting to know if I ever heard of Metallica, which is fucking funny. On many levels, you know.
The first albums were imports. Yeah.
You know, I mean, my daughter wasn't into it at all and wanted nothing to do with it. As with many of my friends' kids of my age group, you know, but now we're seeing some interest on the Next generation, who knows? Who knows? I mean, God knows what we do now is pretty horrible. But it's got as far as like a total package, how the show sounds, how the show looks, what the broadcast is like. It's fucking brilliant.
Wow.
The problem's the content.
Yeah.
The problem's
Yeah.
the content.
Well, that's what earplugs are for, I guess, right?
Yeah. What's funny is that this last tour I did, 10 cities, I didn't see 1 minute of the show, not a minute. And I was in my hotel the last day in Fort Lauderdale, and I'm flipping through the TV, and there comes the fucking show. It's on the TV.
Yeah.
God damn it. I
Yeah.
went this whole run.
Oh, so they're showing it live. Wow.
Now they record it, and it's because we broadcast the LA and the New York shows.
Yeah.
Those are we do 12 acts a day for those, and the other days we do 10 bands, 10 acts. Yeah.
I do feel sorry for these kids today, because I feel the concert going experiences have been perverted by the ticket prices, the scalpers, and they were wanting, like, in a show, the SEMA Talk in Ontario, they were wanting something like $20,000 for one night.
Well,
I mean,
I'll tell you the truth is that I have no idea what tickets cost, but I hear it. I hear it's a lot. I hear it's a lot. And
well, I mean, that's your bread and butter, and I understand. That's
it's not.
And
I'll explain to you why.
Okay.
I don't do any shows all year long that are what we call hard ticket shows, which is that the entirety of the budget is being derived from the ticket sales for the event.
Oh,
right. I don't do those shows because I'm not a part of that budget.
Okay.
Right. I only do events that they're television events. They have some other corporate sponsorship involved in it, mostly because there's going to be some TV aspect to it.
Okay.
Which completely changes the nature of the budget. And that's really what it is. I mean, even that's a great question, because we've seen ticket prices go up exponentially over the past 20 years, right?
Yeah.
But the rates for production have barely moved an inch. And I know people who haven't had a wage move in almost 20 years. 15
Whoa.
years, 10 years. Our wages, I mean, I'm a union audio tech at the top of the fucking pay scale. And our wages have only clicked just a little bit, that have not kept up. Put it this way, I made so much more money 14 years ago, like 2008, 2007, respectively, with what inflation was and what your dollar bought, and wages has really been flat. We make money on overtime, which is what it's all about, and because we work 18 hours a day.
Damn.
And plus on that, we have a union rule that you have to give me an 8-hour turnaround.
Oh, okay.
You have
I
to
thought
give
that
me
was down to 6 hours or some places. Is that the amount you get to sleep? 8 hours?
It's being off work.
Oh, okay.
Right. Because if you don't give me 8 hours off work, then you have to bring me in the next day starting at double time. And I stay on that until I get 8 hours off.
Wow.
So that's what it's about. But 99% of all guys out there doing audio are not members of the union, are not doing the kind of events that I'm doing.
They're home jobbers.
Yeah. And the truth is, when people ask me how to get into this business, my advice to everybody is don't even consider. Don't even consider.
Stay away.
Unless you're willing to live in a major unless you're going to live in New York, or you're going to live in LA,
right?
Or maybe Chicago. Post that, man.
Wow. Well,
what I've the reality.
What I've seen is Los Angeles is looking like a fucking cesspool.
Well, listen, who cares when you're there for work?
Well, yeah.
which was my attitude. I mean, I lived in Manhattan for 17 years,
Oh,
so I could tell you all about cesspool and the adventures of riding a Harley through Manhattan for 17 years. It's not for everybody.
well, howdy.
Hey, man, welcome aboard, man. John Train, nice to have you.
What's happening?
This is it, man. Hanging with the fellas, talking about this. We're talking about the problem with ticket prices.
Right on. Well, I think the biggest price I've ever paid for a ticket was the Paul McCartney show, but I thought it was worth the price for the show that he produced.
What year?
2010 or maybe 2007, 2010, somewhere around there.
Stadium?
No, it was in the Scott Trade Center. That's an indoor, pretty big indoor place. Probably holds no more than 20,000.
Yeah, that's probably a small gig for him because I did him that year at Yankee Stadium.
Oh, so yeah, great show. I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But that was the first time I got to see him, though.
Well, he spends the money. You're going to see some pyro, The thing about Paul McCartney that sucks is that he makes the entire crew eat his vegan fucking meal, which is horrible.
Yeah.
It wasn't so bad even at Yankee Stadium. It's a drag because where the crew entrance is, and by the time you get all the way around and get someplace east, and you got an hour.
Wow.
We could stay there and eat that tofu whatever.
But how do you get your food when you're working? Do they pay for it? Your the way you work?
No, they have to provide me a meal.
Oh, okay.
And it can't be pizza.
Too much gas.
And it has to be. It can't be on paper plates either.
I'll do a paper plate, but pizza is not a meal; it's a snack.
No.
And thank Jesus, my union put that in years ago.
Oh, okay, yeah. Get you some vegetables or something.
Because you're a hostage, and before I was doing shows at the 1%er level, guys. I mean, let's keep in mind that I did a lot of funnel cake tours. I did a lot of shitty shows and a lot of I used to drive the semi across the country, show up, load in, do the whole thing, mix the show, take it all down, put it back to the truck, head to the next city, drive all night again, and doing it on a piece of chicken and a prayer, on bad cocaine and cheap, shitty truck stop coffee,
All that cocaine's cut with baby laxative.
Well, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
If you're lucky,
Man.
Jolt Cola.
Peter,
Jolt
do you do shows in outside venues like besides Yankee Stadium? Like, where's if I could just pivot here,
Please.
Where's your favorite outdoor venue to work? Where's your least favorite? And do you have a memorable story to share about either one of those?
Yeah, they're both the same place, Central Park.
Whoa. Some famous concerts come out of there.
They're both the same place, man, Central Park. And I'll tell you, I kind of fell into a niche that I've been doing shows in Central Park since Sting, I think 99, 98, whatever. So it's been a long time, right? And
That's a
there's
giant crowd.
Yeah, we put a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of very specific logistics about dealing with Central Park and installing an audio system there. It's not like any other place in the world. It is very, very specific how everything's got to be done, about when the truck's got to come in. I mean, one time we had a truck break up tree branch and the entire production came to a halt for like 4 or 5 hours where we had an investigation and mini funeral for the branch. And, there's just hundreds of people working on the site. And
have you got to import your power, like generators out there? How do you find power in Central Park?
Listen, I'm not walking around with a fucking extension cord looking for an outlet. The cat power guys get there 2 weeks before I show up and put in the generators and start running power. But I'll tell you the best and worst show that I ever had at Central Park, right? And I'll start with the worst because it's the top of my mind. It was last year when they had that Welcome Back New York show. We're bringing back New York.
Well, all right, day one of this train wreck. Let's see how it turns out.
Show for New York, whatever the fuck it was called, and everybody was on it.
All right, day two. We're trying to survive this show. We're getting through some sound checks right now. I don't even know who is up there, and I don't care. As long as that thing's in the air, that's all I'm concerned about.
I don't even can't take a guess what groups were on it. My job for that is I'm out on the field and I hang the entire audio system, right? Which consists of the 2 main hangs on the main stage. And then I've got 4 towers out in the field.
Oh, the infamous delay towers.
The infamous delay towers. And we get fiber out there, and getting these wrestling 1,000-pound speaker stacks out there in the field on plywood that's fucking warped.
Well, all right, here in Central Park, gonna have a big gig. Some fella's up there singing this thing. He's a little annoying. I don't know if this music's gonna take off. I mean, we don't even have Cardi B here.
And when the rain and the mud and the forklifts and it's always hard, and it's always dangerous, and it's always difficult, and it always sucks. And at that show that I'm talking about, that concert for New York, show was happening, and we were all looking at the radar on our phone all day long, right? Now, this ain't the 70s, this ain't the 80s, this ain't the 90s. No one has to call the fucking airport and find out what the weather report is, right? We're all looking at it, and we're all looking at this hurricane that's coming to goddamn Central Park where we are.
Wow.
Right. And I remember I was on stage left, Barry Manilow's on stage, and we finally get the word, okay, show's over. We got to batten down the hatches. This fucking sideways thing is coming, I mean, the wind was already blowing. And the thing that I want you to really understand here, right, is the sequence. Once we've made the decision that this show has to stop because of a high wind situation, right? That means immediately the riggers have to go up and they have to open the roof. They have to open the skins, as we call it, right? They have to make sure that there isn't a sail potential, because there's a mathematical equation for what wind and what speed distance covers what surface area, and at what point do we have a serious fucking problem, right? And this stage is like one of those shitty stages you see at some fucking at some state fair festival. I mean, this is a real it's a real man stage that these guys built, So so now the deluge come. Now it's raining. Now it's raining sideways. Now I'll tell you how bad it was raining. My partner that I work with, he was in the first class of Navy SEALs in Vietnam.
Wow.
Right. And he said to me, Pete, I haven't seen rain like this since Nam. Yeah, it was, the rain was sheeting down. And here's what happened. That fucking douchebag, the mayor of New York, de Blasio, right?
Yeah.
He kept holding us from sending the riggers up because he wanted the show to continue, because he had 2 more scheduled appearances on CNN. It's a fucking true story. And we're all like, we got to send the riggers up, got to send, and the wind's getting worse. And now the rain's getting worse. And now it's all getting worse, you know? And finally, I fucking snapped and I walked right over to him. And I said, you know what? You're a fucking disgrace, man. The men and working women in New York City are right the fuck here. And you know what? There's not one goddamn person out in this field. You know why? Because we send them all home. You know why? Because it's too fucking dangerous to have anybody here. But here we are, the working people standing here waiting for you jerk your fucking self off. You're a fucking disgrace, you know? And I turned around and I was surrounded by cops that all had white shirts, you know, and every one of them
The
gave
bosses.
me the fucking nut. They all gave me the nod, man. I didn't give a fuck.
They didn't like
give a
him.
fuck.
They didn't like that guy at all there, did
No,
they?
none of us did. So, you know, and then the end of this fucking thing is that when me and Kenny go back out of the field.
Well, here we are in Central Park, and the show has been canceled. Lightning.
Because we got to start taking these towers down, right?
This thing is fucking canceled. This thing. Fucking canceled. Fucking canceled. This thing.
Because the first thing we do when the high winds come, we touch everything to the ground.
Yeah.
You know, just touch the ground so it's not going to sway in the wind anymore, right? But that's a long ways away from disassembling it, right? So we go back out in the field, and like Kenny, like the water is like mid calf high to us, and you know we realize that the feeder, everything electrical from Cat Power is under the fucking water with us.
Oh man.
We loaded out in that mud till 6 a.m. It was
I don't know why they canceled this.
it was beyond it was
exhausting.
beyond
It has to be.
exhausting. Ridiculous. How many speakers? Someone's asking.
I can read it.
It was many. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hangs. 6 hangs. I probably did 16 boxes per hang, and the delays, and we usually do 20 for the mains.
Whoa.
Plus whatever low frequency devices and front fill shit and outer stuff.
Have you ever have you shorted or lost a board in the middle of a show?
Oh yes, I have.
Blown a cap. Really? That's got to be a there's no backup, I don't believe, was there?
Well, I've had different scenarios, right? I had a scenario once where a kid pulled a fire extinguisher, a fire hose off the wall at a White Zombie show and hit it and blew every fucking knob off the console. And
Damn.
show over. There was no recovery from that because it was
That was a good video that you put up about that.
yeah. Bro. You know, I can't explain it properly in the video what a disaster that was. And you know, the band wanted this guy thrown to the crowd so he could be torn apart. I mean, it's fucking ugly. But I'll tell you, the worst one I had was I was doing a festival and I'm standing at the console and I'm mixing the band, and all of a sudden, kabam, all the fucking knobs just exploded and the whole PA goes, "Rah!" What happened is that guy above me on the spotlight tower went forward, lost the spotlight. The Super Trooper came down right on the console. The whole fucking thing exploded. Scared the shit out of me. Show's over, you know.
That's
now
expensive day.
Yeah. I'm sure I've had others. You know, I've destroyed consoles on purpose because I was a dick.
But have you ever did any old style audio systems like All-Tech Lansings or?
Bro, what the fuck you think I grew up on, man?
Oh, okay. Right
Come
on.
on. That's where it all started, man. Voice of the Theaters, Shure vocal columns, and everything that was homemade, man.
Right on.
You know, and I'll tell you this. Go ahead, man. All right, but I'll just say that I don't let guys call themselves audio engineers. I'm not having that, man. If you didn't engineer anything, you don't get to fucking say that. You know, when I was coming up, the guys, you know, I worked with guys that we built the cabinets, we made the wire, we made the cables, we soldered everything, we put transistors in the amp racks and not transistors, but capacitors because we were having problems with long cable runs and holding the charge. I mean, you really had to engineer it and figure it out, you know?
That's wild. You do the science with the caps. That's cool though. Because they're just power being forced forward, I guess. I don't know. I'm not an electronics guy. I just watch these guys repair TVs on YouTube. That's about as far as
Everything's just about solving a problem, you know? That's it. And I was lucky enough to be around a lot of smart guys, you know, that were all about solving problems.
Yeah, I could dig that. I could dig it.
What else we got, guys?
No, it's funny. He brings up about the old gear. I remember building Perkins cabinets and building three-way systems with the old DH3s and all kinds of crap.
Yep. Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, and because I spent so many years in nightclubs, doing shows in nightclubs and having nightclub systems, and most of that, or all of it, was all modular. You'd have your earthquake or your double scoops on the bottom, then a mid cabinet, then a high mid cabinet, then the box of paint on top. That you'd use the ashtrays to aim at some table, brutalize somebody down there.
Are you tuning all that stuff by meters or the sound, or are you tuning it the room per se by a 3D microphone or something like that? You know what I'm talking
I
about?
mean, nowadays?
Yeah.
Oh, listen, I'm not tuning anything. I deal with steel and copper.
Oh, okay.
And people. That's what I do. I mean, there is a whole team of motherfuckers
Yeah.
a lot smarter than me that do some real science shit in these arenas.
Yeah. That's
That
amazing stuff.
they're doing shit that I couldn't tell. I honestly couldn't tell you what they're exactly what they're doing.
Okay, Trevor, if we can come out and go up into the side here a little bit. Come come away this way a bit. Maybe in that next section there, like 2 or 3 rows up.
Well, all I try to do is keep them below in the VU meter range or whatever that is. That's all I've ever done. But that's cool work.
Yeah, it's just what the skill set is all about. I stopped mixing shows. I stopped mixing shows when I got to the point where I got sick of being pulled away to answer questions all the time. Where's the truck coming in? What's happening back to what, and when you're chained to the console,
you're the guy they find every time.
Right. So it was easier to get somebody else to be behind the console than it was to get somebody backstage to deal with this and that. And it's just kind
Are
of.
you still picking up? You like mixing monitors. You're a good whip and post. You still pick up some extracurricular monitor work here and there. You can't. Once an audio guy, always an audio guy.
Oh yeah, I'm the monitor, one of the monitor mixers for the MTV Video Music Awards every year.
Nice.
So I still do that, and but I'm the only monitor guy that doesn't touch a console.
Have you ever heard of an individual called Night Bob?
Oh yeah, I know Night Bob.
Yeah, he's a front of the house guy, a very interesting guy.
He's a real character. He mixed all those old Aerosmith shows.
The bootleg album or whatever they put out.
He mixed the Rocks tour, the one after that, the Draw the Line. He had some career, man.
Yeah, he's legendary, definitely.
John's got a question, man. What do you got there, John? Let's hear it. John Train.
Thanks, Peter. A couple of years ago, I took my kid to go see Panic at the Disco. I'm sure you've heard of them.
I've even done it.
At one point, Brendan Urie, the singer, worked his way from one side of the arena to the other, and in the dark climbed onto a grand piano that they then raised up into the rafters and moved across the entire floor and then set him right back down on stage. What kind of challenge is that for somebody like you?
So you're saying that he got on a platform and then moved from one position in the arena to the other?
Yeah, there was a crane that just sort of moved the whole platform from the north to the south end of the arena. And then,
was it a crane or was it a travel track on an existing truss?
Yeah, it was a crane that like extended out. Like it looked like a telescoping crane that was connected onto something else. And there was a shitload of cable on it.
Yeah. Oh, Tina Turner had one of those on her last tour, where she'd get in this like crane, like exact same thing you're doing, telescope out and telescope back in. Well, there's a couple things like that kind of cable. There's the cable management issue. You know, what are we going to do with the cable, and how are we going to keep it from not knotting up and bundling? But the other thing too is that wireless technology has come so far along, and the guys that I work with, they could do anything. Wherever you want to put the artist, we'll find a way to make it work there. But it's really that kind of thing is about cable management. But what did the artist have? Were they playing a piano and a vocal?
He was playing a grand piano and singing at the same time.
That's heavy.
Which was a feat in itself, because I'm watching this guy playing like, you're fucking nuts, bud.
Yeah,
I'm sure that he was strapped in with something, but yeah, it was a grand piano, a full size grand piano.
Yeah. Well, first off, let's not assume that it was a real grand piano. That it was a grand piano prop with an electronic keyboard.
Fair enough.
Right.
It could have been an
probably weighed 50.
Missing the
50,
guts.
Yeah, it's plastic, maybe weighed 50 pounds at best, right? The other thing too that you probably didn't see is that when he got on the platform, there was probably some light shooting somewhere else, or a second of dark while the tech goes and straps him in. That's another a quick move that happens. At Radio City, I used to be with, we had this for 1 year, we had this move with Santa, right? Where he was in the snowflake. So I had to go in there, check his ears, make sure his mic's good, ready to go. I'm there with the carpenter whose job is to clip him in, right? And then we would both disappear while the floor went down and he went up. So there was one point where he was like 70 feet, 80 feet above the floor, hanging in a snowflake.
I like the shows with the dual stages. It gives the people the cheap seats, a chance to see the band. I think Kiss may have started that back in the 90s when they did their reunion stuff.
I mean, having a stage at one side, one on the other.
Yeah, well, one stage, the front stage, and a little platform stage in the middle.
Killing a lot of seats. You're killing a lot of high money seats too.
Yeah, but yeah. I've also seen White Zombie in '93, so I know what they were like then. That was a killer show. What do you think about the new Pantera shows?
I think that anybody playing music and wants to get out there and sell tickets, I'm all for it, man. That's what I think. And then for people that say that it's a cover band or it's this and that, like, who cares? As long as they're people want to see it, man, I'm all for it.
Oh, the people paying for the seats. I mean, I think they're I don't know where they're at, but I hope it comes to America real soon. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, they take it to think about heavy metal in South America. It dwarfs what happens here in North America.
Rock in Rio.
Yeah, they have a different set of fans there, man, for sure. Yeah,
it's I did an MTV with the South American Video Music Awards called Los Premios in Guadalajara, something, Mexico. Whatever the fuck was. And Metallica was one of the bands playing, and I'm the monitor mixer for it. And we had these other groups, but we had this one Mexican heavy metal band. It was the first time I ever saw Marshall stacked 4 high. I was like, get the fuck out of here. And they were all plugged in, rocking and rolling. It's like, really?
How do you reach the head?
They're behind the rig.
Oh.
There's 4
Oh, okay.
cabinets, 4 cabinets high.
Wow.
But that was my introduction to Mexican heavy metal. It's like, oh geez.
Yeah. But I like these guys get those, but I hate the festivals, man. They're so fucking miserable being standing out in the heat. One example, in year 2000, I saw Metallica on a fucking racetrack, and the whole goddamn, and all we were doing was, it was July 3rd, 99-degree weather and concrete. It was miserable. No place for shade. So if you weren't prepared to, you were really going to be suffering all fucking day. And the fucking front part is they made us park almost a half a mile away, and we had to walk to the venue from there.
Yeah, that's the thing about, hey, we're going to make a venue today. And someone's got a good idea.
Yeah.
Summer of 2003. Oh yeah, the new tour for Metallica coming up. That, I don't know if he's talking about like that. They got some insane VIP packages that are going for like $3,000 and stuff with your little raised private coolers and crap. It's not.
Yeah, a buddy of mine has been their monitor guy for almost 25 years now. And what's funny is he had a choice. He had a choice of doing the Grateful Dead or Metallica. And the Dead wanted to do a 3-hour sound check every day, and the Metallica doesn't sound check. He's like, I'm taking Metallica. Those guys just show up and do it.
I'm glad you didn't have to do the wall of sound that Jerry had back in the day with all those damn Macintosh amps. I don't know if you remember that or not.
That was worse than you think, because those were flame linears.
Okay.
Yeah, they called the flame linear. It wasn't a flame linear. It's called a phase linear.
Okay.
Was the name of the amplifier.
Oh, I thought he was using Macintoshes, but no. Okay.
Yeah, phase linear, and we would have to put dry ice in fans to keep those amps cool, or else they would catch fire.
Wow.
And there would even, unlike when you look back at those old like late 70s, early 80s kind of outdoor festivals, man, if you didn't have spare amps, man, this thing's not going to work. You're not going to survive this.
Wow.
This show. The heat dispersion problem was some shit.
Well, how many tubes have you changed?
Physical tubes?
Yeah.
None.
Oh,
None.
Interesting. Okay. It was all solid state stuff, apparently.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Wicked.
Yeah. Old PVCS 800 amps, BGW amps, and the thing too is that, back when I started, the most powerful speaker in the world was 300-watt Serwin Vega 18. So everything was low watt, worked on mechanical advantage. Everything was horned and ported, and you had to do that to get the exponential output that you were looking for.
Yeah.
You couldn't just have speakers flush mounted, drive some amplifier to it and let it go, because it's going to disperse into nowhere. And 50, 60 feet away, you got nothing.
Yeah, that's how you make it legible for the listener, I guess. Is that the idea?
Yeah, you need, mission number 1 is intelligibility. Without T's and S's in the back of the room, you got nothing.
Wow.
That's where it all starts. And sound is a change of air pressure. You're changing some pressure, you're making some noise, and that's what it's about. And it's a lot of, you got to really look at it in the perspective of, okay, look how many square inches are in this room. How many molecules do I have to move to get this from A to B to the back of the room and do it full range?
While the wind's blowing, if it's outdoors, is that even harder?
I did a gig once, and I kept telling the PA tech that the fucking PA's blowing up. He goes, that's the wind. There was 16 horns gone on one side of the fucking rig. there is effect. I mean, there's certainly atmospheric effect. The biggest atmospheric effects are temperature and humidity.
Yeah.
You know, if it's hot outside and there's high humidity, getting high frequency to the back of the venue or outdoors, it's a difficult challenge. If it's cold outside, you're not going to get low frequency. It's going to be a difficult proposition,
I had seen an outdoor Marilyn Manson show in October once.
Oh, I've done the dropping of the ball in Times Square, 5 degrees outside.
Oh, that's crazy. That's great.
So
Yeah.
I could tell you not just the joys of rolling up 300-foot frozen snakes, but getting microphones that won't stop feeding back because you just can't cut the high frequency out. Because that's the only frequency that's left because of the atmospheric temperature.
Wow. I saw a Pat Benatar show once, and a thunderstorm was rolling in, and you can see they were actually on tour on the stage playing, and you can hear the wind rolling around, changing the sound in front of them. I was surprised about that. I'd never seen that effect before.
John, what's your question?
It was more of a comment. Somebody asked about wind and shows, and at Red Rocks, I've seen every show that I've seen there is good. Doesn't matter who it is, even if you don't like them, because of the acoustics. But wind really destroyed a BOC show, a Blue Oyster Cult show. It came in from the southwest and blew right down across the entire audience onto the stage. They didn't lose anything on the stage, but it was like having your fingers in your ears and listening to a concert. It was pretty amazing.
Oh yeah.
And then it went away and it was fine again.
I was doing a like one of the worst fucking shows ever.
He laughs.
this powwow in Connecticut at the whatever that big casino is out there.
I don't know. I've never been there.
But they we did this powwow in a tent 700 feet long and 250 feet wide. An epic fucking tent, right? And I put 90 speakers in this tent for this powwow, and we're going to have like 150 acts all set up around the rim, and the guys get around their drum, do their thing, and the dancers and the singers come in the middle, and like this space is massive, right? And the first year we did it, we had 17 hours a day of show. That's how long the show was. And they booked me a fucking hotel like 40 minutes away. Like, me and the crew, we were so pissed. And here's the thing too about it, right? Is that and I'm going to go culturally insensitive here. And here it is, right? They have a thing in their culture that if an eagle feather touches the ground, they got to have a fucking ceremony, right? So anytime an eagle feather would come off someone's costume and touch the ground, we had to stop the whole goddamn show and have a fucking ceremony about this eagle feather and have a little fucking thing for it,
Indian casino?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're in this tent doing this thing, and they're doing this dance. We're the last day there. And this old woman comes out, man. She looks like she was pre-Civil War, man, and she comes out. Yeah. And she's like covered in eagle feathers. Like, she's wearing like hundreds of fucking eagle feathers. Like, she is she's like the head of the tribe, right? Right. She comes out doing their thing. They're doing the thing, and the dancer, she goes out there and she just falls fucking face forward, and she falls goddamn dead right there. Right.
Heart attack.
So, who the fuck knows? But here's what I know. I know that we had to have a ceremony for every one of those goddamn eagle feathers, and we had to have the funeral right then and there. That took the show 10. We had a 10-hour funeral break. Now we're doing the funeral. It's like, can't you put this woman in a
where's the medical examiner
ambulance? Are you sure she's dead? Can you take her in an ambulance and maybe take the feathers with her? Do we have to do this now?
Unbelievable.
But so anyways, point of the story is that after this debacle was over, I said, man, I'm never fucking going back there. And I took the plans of the whole thing with me. And the next year I like quadrupled my price to go back, and I went back the next year. And
Right.
my one brother went with me the first year, said he's never going back again. And I took my other brother with me the second year, right?
Whoa.
The second year we go back, it was when the hurricane hit Connecticut, right? And fucking destroyed the site, completely destroyed it. I got pictures of the tent, just everything destroyed, everything gone. The stagehands were finding speakers floating in the river. I mean,
My.
it was so awesome. Just to be there for a week and just hanging out, partying in the hotel, not doing the show while the hurricane wrecked the place.
So what protections do you guys use to work with high voltage?
As in,
Has anybody been shocked? Have you seen anybody been harmed or anything like that?
in my
Like-
lifetime, like in my
Well,
lifetime.
yeah, well, in your career, I guess. I don't know.
Sure, I've burnt a nightclub to the ground. I've exploded 3 transformers off the pole.
Wow.
I mean,
those are loud.
I could start with that. I mean,
Wow.
yeah, I've certainly burnt some shit down to the ground.
Well, I mean, I'm
That's
just,
how you learn.
yeah. Yeah.
Read the book.
Yeah, that's all true. I have burnt
Wow.
some shit down to the ground, but that was a long time ago. And that being said, that kind of made me quite the expert on electricity.
Aha. B plus.
I'm all about knowing what not to do. You want to know what not to do? I'm your guy. You know, I mean, now, I mean, that's what the electrician does.
Okay.
Electricians. I mean, I don't deal with that shit. I say to the stagehands, this is my feeder. Let's get out of the box. We're gonna run it. Let the electricians plug it in.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
That's it.
come on, Pete. You know, you have live tied 220 in your career.
Let me tell you something. And this the absolute truth as I sit here. I have tied in live 220 while standing on a bucket in a flooded basement.
Oh, fuck
Good
that.
man.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
Oh my.
True fucking story, man.
That'll burn you.
Oh,
True fucking story. For a rave in Akron, Ohio. Something really important. It's the perseverance, man. That when you're out there and you're the one guy and you drove the truck and you got the gear and there's no one to help you and there's no 911 and you don't even have a buddy, like, what are we going to do? Like, you're just there by yourself. It's all about, how am I going to get this done? How am I going to get this done? How am I going to get this done? How am I going to get it there? How am I going to get this? This guy's stopping me. This guy doesn't want me to do this. And now I got to be a dick. It's really all about the perseverance,
I do have one more question.
Boot up.
What did you do when the promoter or the people who booked act tried to welch you on your payment?
Well, that's happened to me many times
Okay.
over the years, getting welched on the pant. What?
He laughs.
One time, I mean, pick a decade. First off, one of my favorite times in the 80s, we didn't get paid. We took their cigarette machine and we took all the booze from the bar because they were foolish enough to leave us there with the cleaning crew. And that was a mistake. So we took all that. Another time, another club ripped us off, and we in Virginia Beach, and we might have put some bricks to their front window. We did put bricks to their front window.
Yeah, they deserved it. They were asking for it.
Well, I wouldn't say that that's the proper way to handle things, but when it's 1987 and you're broke and you're waiting for $2,000 and you get 1,200 and you just bought a bus for 900 and you're going to Florida, the whole mathematical thing kind of gets fucked up. I used to deal with a club in West Virginia where they would give us the option of paying us with real money or 4 times the amount in counterfeit money. So that was always interesting too,
Wow. I didn't know they had such a big racket in West Virginia like that.
Oh, the funny 20s, the bright 20s,
Yeah, I never
giving them
seen
to
it.
every band coming through. That we spread them to every gas station and 7-Eleven and Taco Bell from here to Florida.
Those were the days before they had the pin that could verify that wasn't the right paper.
That was before everything. There was no cell phone, fax machine, internet, cell phone, pager. There was nothing, man. There was pre-credit card deposit. You know, you went
Wow.
in, you showed your license to somebody, you got the truck, and you left town. And you left it 3 states later. You know, with the keys above the visor in some parking lot. I mean, that's you know the reality of it.
Okay, one more question.
Yeah, man.
Wildest night you've had interaction with the police? Meaning
Ooh.
they were there to introduce themselves to you or your band, or
Well,
he laughs again.
I'll tell you 2 police incidents, right? First one was me and my buddy were doing a show in Cleveland at this ghetto park on the east side, some rap show. And you know, we're both standing on stage, and we were mixing from the stage for the first place, right? We declined to even put a house console or a snake on the audience, right?
Okay.
To start from.
Wow.
So a fight breaks out, and it's like 10 people fighting. It's like 50 people fighting. It's like 100 people fighting. It's like 200 people fighting. And there's a couple of cops standing next to me and my buddy on stage. And the cop looks at me and says, well, we don't know about you, but we're leaving in 10 minutes.
Shift change.
You know, so it was a scramble to get everything in the truck before they got in their car.
Wow.
You know, and another time that's memorable to me was Nautica in Cleveland, Ohio. We're doing some kind of festival, and Green Day was the headliner. This is right after they hit. And I had my ex-wife's nephew with me that day because he was a Green Day fan, but and a bunch of other groups that were playing too, right? But there was a problem with people breaking in to the amphitheater, because this amphitheater was right on the water, right on the Cuyahoga River. You know, any boat passing, we were right behind the stage. I mean, right on the river, like take my cup, boop, toss it in the drink, right the fuck there, you know, which is a beautiful background for the city when you're sitting in the audience perspective, right? So we're doing this show, and people start climbing over the fence in, and now there's not 5,000 people. Now there's like 6,000 people. You know, now the people are climbing in, right? So the police do the most outrageous thing ever. They open up the doors that we use to bring the trucks in, right? And there's like 30 cops lined in a row, all on motorcycles, and there's cops in between them with the big shields and the sticks, and they just start moving into the crowd, and they just start beating and whomping everybody in their path, right?
Wow.
Meanwhile, a police boat pulls up behind the stage, right? Pulls right up behind the stage.
The rescue guys.
And I'm stage left, right? Thinking, oh, thank Jesus, the cops are here. Oh, now we're gonna get control, right? And meanwhile, while this is all happening, I got my wife's dumbass my nephew trying to have a conversation with that bass player from Green Day, who is holding a like a lamp in his hand, like a big flashlight, bright fucking lamp thing, and he's just drooling on it. Yeah, a floodlight. Thank you. And he's just drooling on it, and watching the drool fizzle on. Like that's what he's doing while my nephew's going, yeah, man, because I'm really into your music and you guys are really great. I felt so bad for the kid. Like, have some dignity, man.
Right.
You know, so this police boat's there, and so I'm thinking, you know, oh, thank Jesus, they're here to rescue us, right? The fucking guy gets on the water cannon, right? It just hits the drum kit with the water cannon, and here goes the cymbals on stands. Boosh into the fucking audience, the kit, everything goes splash to the audience, hits all the backline, the amps, blows into the audience. We had these wedges, these monitor wedges, double 15 2-inch on stage. They had to be 110 pounds each. Easy, at least 110 pounds. The water cannon hit those things and shot them to the fucking audience, taking people out.
Dear Lord.
You know, I grabbed the kid, ran off the stage. And my boss is there. He's like, you got to go up there and get the microphones. Get the fuck you, get the microphones. Suck a dick. You go fucking get your microphones. Why don't you tell the fucking cop with the squirt gun to chill out?
Exactly. Have you ever loaded in for like Dave Letterman or any variety television shows? Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you ever set up for a band that did a television performance like on Dave Letterman or Conan or any TV other than
Yeah.
iHeart? Oh, you have?
Yeah. I mean, I did 20 years of that. I mean, behind me, there's two Conan passes behind me for when I did it in New York and when I did it in Chicago, which were the two remotes from the LA. I used to do the Colbert Show. I used to do the Daily Show. I used to do Wendy Williams when they had performance there.
Wow.
I've done Letterman. You know, I used to do the Chris Rock Show, Chappelle Show.
Wow.
What else? There's more. I did
Let's-
Playboy TV.
Oh, really? After
Yeah.
hours? They used to have Playboy after hours.
Yeah,
Back in the day.
I used to do the Night Call Show.
Oh, okay.
We
Wow,
had
that's-
these twats sitting there playing with each other. And people would call in, touch yourself. Oh, I love you, and all that shit. You know, and funny enough, it was the only time in my life that I got a job as what they call a production A2, miking the talent. You know, because
Oh.
I hate that shit. I hate dealing with miking people up and doing
touching
all
them.
that shit. I'm not into it. But so the one time I ever did it was with everyone was naked, so we had to hang had to hang belly chains on them to hang the two packs, the mic pack and the in-ear pack. You know,
Okay. Wow.
that was a win.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It was so funny about that is that's when you'll learn how many of your friends watch Playboy TV, right? All the people texting me the next day, I saw my name on the credits.
Wow.
But to your point, the answer is yes. I've done a fuckload of that because, you know, the thing about television studios in New York City or anywhere else is they are very, very, very tight on space. You know, they are very tight on space. Real estate is a premium, and there is no space to have some monitor rig just eating up space. You know, so they bring it in and out whenever there's a musical performance. You know, unless
you say you grew up in Ohio.
Mhm.
Where were you when that Who show went off and all those kids got killed?
hundreds of miles away in Cleveland.
okay.
That was in Cincinnati in 1980.
Yeah.
And it was the end of the general admission. You know,
Okay. Yeah, they did make changes after that.
yeah, we used to have the World Series of Rock in Cleveland, Ohio, and I worked at Cleveland Stadium from 1974 to 1980, and I worked in the commissaries.
Oh, okay.
And subsequently, I saw all the concerts, the World Series of Rock shows that were there. And the last one was a Bob Seger, and there was a lot of violence at that show.
Wow.
And that was the last, and all the violence was outside the stadium from people that didn't have tickets, from people that were not there for no other purpose but to prey upon the concert goers. So, that being said,
Well, I'm just
But
glad you didn't get to witness that or something.
No, but I did get fired that show. that was my last day working at Cleveland Stadium. I got fired because when we did those concerts, we always needed more labor, you know. So I had a buddy of mine come with me and come with me and work with me that day, right? But what happened is that when Jay Giles was playing,
Love that band.
yeah, fucking great, right?
Yeah.
Me and him cut away, and we got this box of Cleveland Indians frisbees, and I mean a refrigerator sized box, and we took it up to the upper deck, up to the top deck, and like for a half hour we were throwing frisbees into the crowd, hundreds and hundreds of white Indian frisbees.
Now they're throwing them at each other.
Oh yeah, and to this day I find people on Facebook that was at that concert, and everyone remembers those frisbees.
Wicked. Have you found a couple making love out in the crowd anywhere?
People having sex in the crowd?
Yes.
Oh, Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe that was I was at a Sammy Hagar show once, and they caught these two getting it on down the road from. They actually kicked them out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's beyond my care, my my purview, as they say.
One more question. Back in the 70s, people used to bring fireworks into shows.
Yeah, sure. People used to bring a lot of shows.
Well, they would throw the
Yeah.
son of a bitches out, and while they're burning firecrackers, and I've heard that in the bootlegs. That's how I know about that.
Well, a lot of that too is that, you really got to put in perspective that this wasn't a professional industry back then that had a track record and a proven way of doing things. I mean, you go to a stadium show today, like any stadium show for any band, and I guarantee you it's going to be straight up, because it's a formula, it's a method. No one is worthwhile is doing it from scratch.
Now, where I'm from, people that produce our shows is Contemporary Productions. Which production company you think was the worst, that did the worst job that you knew of?
Oh, well, the worst, huh? That's got to go to some of the R&B stuff I used to do, man. Straight up, that when I used to do like New Edition, worst tour ever.
Wow.
Where the ticket price is the
That was
same as
Bobby
any other
Brown.
show. Oh, Bobby Brown, fucking disaster.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, the drugs. Yeah, he was. I don't know about back then, but before Whitney died or whatever, they was all on the crack is whack.
Oh yeah, I was with him when he kicked Whitney off the tour bus in California, and left him and the kids on the side of the road, and another bus had to pick him up.
Dear Lord, such a traumatic family. They were always dramatic. It seemed.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, that's the thing about paying your dues on the low budget stuff.
The worst show I ever saw was a band called Harmar Superstar. Have you ever heard of this guy?
No.
Well, you didn't miss anything. Oh my. It was horrible. It was horrible. I don't even know. I never knew who he was before that night. Certainly did. The only reason I know him is how bad it was. And one of the craziest shows I saw was what's his name? The kid with the white t-shirt, Andrew WK.
Andrew WK.
Yeah. Do you know who he is?
Do not.
But
I don't know a lot of things.
Right. But but I understand what you were saying about the 70s. Before the unions probably got a hold of everybody. That's probably where it became improved.
Well, that's a complicated question. And I'll say this, that if you want a professional stagehand, you need a union stagehand, and without a union stagehand and without a union standard, there is no standard. And even like how I try to explain to people in our right to work state, it's like once you have the right to have the same standards of a union, right? But once you take away the union member, then where's your standard? And that's the problem. And this 10-city tour that I just did, I will tell you straight up to your face that the state of stagehand craft around this country is in a fucking crisis. Only in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles do I deal with professional stagehands. When I was in Dallas, I had not one professional full-time stagehand on the entire crew.
Were they all temps?
What's that?
Were they all temps?
Well, where are you going to work full-time as a stagehand in Texas? 365 days a year. Right?
I don't know.
And same thing when I was in Detroit. The same, it was, oh, Jesus Christ, Atlanta. It's like they went to the meth clinic and picked up these people. Fort Lauderdale was the worst. And they're better in Miami. I got a buddy that runs the arena in Miami. He's terrific, and they got a great crew there. But around the country, man, it is who is showing up for these calls, man. It's
Wow.
brutal.
Wow, I can imagine. And it's different faces everywhere you go, right? So
Yeah, whereas at Dallas, I was in Dickies Arena.
I'm trying
Which
to
I-
think of that other room in Texas.
I used to go play a reunion arena in Dallas, and I hear it's not there anymore. But
The
here's the thing
Summit.
too. I get out of the van, and there I
Yeah.
am. I get out of the van, I'm at the loading dock, and at the end of the night, I get back in the van that takes me to the hotel, or I get back on the bus to take me to the next gig. But I don't have this visual memory of going into these places and coming out of these places.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's your job. People do this stuff every day. Don't necessarily. It's just going through the motions, I guess. Is that?
Well, it's more than that. It's like when you drive your car somewhere and you know where you parked and you know where you got there, and you know what exit you got off and you know how to get there. It's a completely different environment that I'm so detached from how I'm traveling. All I have to do is follow the person in front of me, get into the seat, and wait till the door opens at the next location, get out, follow the next person into the next place.
Well, the room that I'm thinking about in Texas is the Summit. Have you been in there?
I don't think so.
Okay. That's back in the
Houston.
day. Yeah. That was
Brian,
back in the
Brian
day.
would know the answer.
Yeah, that Summit is in Houston, and I don't think the Summit is there anymore. I think, if memory serves me correct, the Summit is now one of those super churches.
Ooh,
But
making
one
making
interesting
the money for the
fact.
Lord.
Joel Olstein, I think.
Oh,
He needs the money.
he hides
Yeah.
it in the bathroom wall.
Yeah, I have done some shameless religious things in the past. I mean, I've done popes, the Dalai Lama.
Well, the reason I mentioned the
Nation of
Summit
Islam.
is there was somebody who was part of the building or something recorded all the shows in there on VHS.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I have the Queen show from 77 inside the Summit on video. That's freaking amazing.
Even
And-
a Kiss show from
Yeah.
77 is on one of the Kissology DVD sets.
Well, that's been a
It's on the
bootleg
show.
staple forever. Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's numerous Summit shows. And I mean, it goes back to that documentation. I love watching that old stuff.
Yeah.
John, what's your question?
I wanted to know if you worked the Pulse tour at any point for Pink Floyd in the 90s, or if you were part of the release they did when they lit up the Empire State Building and shit. And what kind of challenges does a band like that present for somebody like you versus a three-piece like Green Day?
As far as like how much stuff is on stage?
Or the sound system.
Yeah, like what comes, what's the difference between miking up a band like Floyd and taking into consideration everything that they were using percussively,
Right.
along with all the other instruments and the singers? Did they have somebody on the tour that you worked with, or did they come in and show you a picture of what they wanted with that half eyeball stage and you did your thing?
That any set that the band travels with, they brought with them. They ship that over from wherever it was built. They have it built in France or Europe or, wherever it's built, and they ship that over. And if I'm dealing with a band where we're providing everything, for example, right? We're providing it all, then they have sent us what their rider is, what their requirements are. Then we have to take into consideration what is the event space and what is the seating capacity and what we're trying to cover audio wise, right? And we're not a guessing game. We know exactly what we need to cover X amount of seats, right? And I've done big things like the New York Philharmonic Orchestra, and I know what it's like to have just hundreds and hundreds of inputs up on the deck.
Wow.
And we use the same PA that we use with Metallica in Central Park. I mean, the rig that I put in for Bocelli for Central Park is the exact same rig that I put in for Metallica.
Wow.
You know, so what changes is what's coming through the loudspeaker system. Now, there's a lot of challenges with miking up orchestral kind of things and putting it into a loud environment. You know, it's not like with a rock show where you have a lot of input going into the microphone. You know, it's a delicate balance, and it's really a specialty, and there's only so many guys in the world that do it. And I've been fortunate enough to work with and know some of the best guys at it and get their approach to it. So it's a thing unto its own. As far as Pink Floyd goes, you know, I saw them in '77. Division Bell tour, I was sent out as a technician to learn how to hang the new system, which was the Turbo Sound flashlight system. And years later, I would end up owning my own Turbo Sound system.
Wow.
The blue cabinets, you know. And then my next Pink Floyd connection with is that I ran the stage for MSG for the 12-12-12 concert, and we had Roger Waters on stage, and me and my assistant were almost personally responsible for bringing that show to a stop.
I have a real interesting story.
Go ahead, man. Let's hear it.
In 1999, Roger Waters came to a silly ass. We got what's called the Riverport Amphitheater. You ain't missing anything. Worst freaking place on. And we had seats that were.
Where is it?
The Riverport Amphitheater. That is
what
in
city?
Maryland Heights, Missouri.
Okay.
But they call that St. Louis. So if you know if the band's on stage, they'll scream, "Hey St. Louis!" They don't say, "Hey Maryland Heights." They just say St. Louis. But we had seats that were all the way in the back in double X in the reserve section. And my friend had learned that there's sometimes they release seats the day of the show.
Yep.
So he goes
they got to keep the band tickets and see how many tickets the bands want.
Right. And what had happened was I'm up there eating my dinner at a trash can, and he's up there at the box office to see if they had better seats. He comes back to me and he goes, "I just bought 2 front row seats to see Roger Waters." I got to spend 3 hours right directly below Roger Waters. Well, yeah, he was above me, and I was right there. Beautiful. I also seen him in 2010. Snowy White was there.
Nice.
And
I saw the Wall tour. My buddy of mine was their tour manager, and my wife and I went in Orlando, and he gave us 10th row seats, which was awesome to see the Wall, but it's actually too close.
Well,
you know.
Yeah, I actually got a great recording from 2010 when I stuck my recorder in there and recorded it. Beautiful, because their sound was so pristine. It was just amazing. Although I'm kind of lost for words because that was 3 hours, and he does have some wild staring eyes. I don't.
Yeah, he was terrific, and he's a very nice guy to deal with too. So that's a big plus, you know.
He did spit on somebody in '77.
Oh well, so did I, you know.
Right on.
Yeah, keep that in perspective, right?
Right on. Yeah.
Guys, what else you got, man?
I can tell you go ahead, man.
Oh, it was just a quick question. I know you're an acoustics guy, but what other, large format arrays out there kind of like make your eyes sparkle and stuff?
Well, let me say this. In the 21st century, everything sounds good. You know, everything that you plug into is going to sound pretty good out of the gate. The company that I work for has 3 different manufacturers of audio systems that we have in stock, which is D&B, L-Acoustic, and JBL. I spend most of my year hanging JBL because the difference between the JBL and the L-Acoustics is that the JBL has more of a rigid rigging system, allowing for a deeper and more dramatic curvature of the array. And what that enables us to do is to fly that thing higher out of sight for television events when there's wide camera jib shots
Yeah, line of
that
sight.
that don't want to see the PA.
Yeah,
You know, it's one thing doing a jingle ball, you know, you expect to see that big hanging PA there, but you know, you watch the VMAs, you will not see the PA. You will not see the PA in the shot because my bottom trim is like 70 feet for that. And the only way to achieve that is with a tough curvature. And the only way you get that is with a rigid system like a JBL. You know,
Have you
go ahead.
opportunity to demo it like that new Meyer Panther rig?
You know what? I don't get into it because I don't get a choice. And so that it,
I
it's
just
too
wonder if maybe hit it at Nam or something, you know, or something came down the pipe.
no, the truth is, brother, that I stopped going to I stopped going to those conventions and doing all that kind of shit a long time ago. And it's not that I don't care, but it's just at the end of the day, I just don't care. You know, I care about what I do and what I say and what my actions are. But since I don't get a choice of what I'm hanging today, I don't get a choice of where I'm going. I don't get a choice who's performing. I get the only choice I get is how I conduct myself, and you know, and the
Yeah.
job that I do. That's what. So that said, even though there's a lot of great and interesting stuff out there. I'm still my personal bandwidth is taken up on other things.
Right. Gotcha.
You know,
Thanks.
that's my honest assessment on it. And it's and I really honestly I try to not be a grumpy old cunt. I'm actually a very the most friendly guy on the gig, you know. When I'm at work, man, I talk to everybody backstage. I have nothing but smiles and jokes and laughing all day long. And reason being, because I know what I'm doing. You know, and that when you see people that are nervous and angry and agitated and irritable, they are usually people that don't know what's going on, or they are not very good at what they do. And the thing is too, is that every time I go to work, it's someone's big day. You know, every time I see somebody, you know, this is the big gig of the year for them. You know, for me, that's Tuesday, you know, so I got to keep empathy in that too. You know,
What is your thing about backing tracks and lip syncing?
I think that it's every show, every group, and it's you know, it's 90 inputs of fucking track. And you know, we had acts this last tour they had to cancel because the laptop didn't show up or because problem with the drive. And but let me say this, I'm putting together a live show for 2023, and I have to use tracks because I'm locking up to a video, and I gotta have a SMPTE rolling. And you know, it's, you know, if you want to just get into a bar and, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, who the fuck needs it? I mean, we got a roadie band, and we rent rehearsal space any day that we have a day off tour. You know, we rent a studio and we go jam for the day, you know.
Nice.
But
You said something about a laptop. Are you referring to a band called Falling in Reverse a couple of months ago?
Right, I heard
no,
about
I'm talking about a much bigger group than that.
Well,
that. Their stuff was stolen.
would you give us some feedback on that? Like, this band Falling in Reverse had to cancel a couple of shows at least,
I saw
and
that.
there's a bit of you know, there's a bit of friction all over socials for that from the fans and stuff, and then the critics. And you know, what do you know about that? How easy is it for something like that to take a tour down or a show down, and why isn't there redundant systems in place if it's that important? Yeah, I'm preaching to the choir, right?
Excuse me, sir. It seems that you are answering your own questions. Why the fuck? Why the fuck? If it's so fucking important, where is it? Where's the second one? Where's the backup? Where's the thumb drive? Why are we relying on your cousin Phil to get here from fucking Philadelphia? You know, I mean, why? I mean, I'll tell you what, I did a show I don't even know, at least a decade ago over in Jersey. And it was a Korean show. And they wanted to do the show in Central Park because they couldn't afford it. So they did it in Jersey. And it was a giant sign over the stage, welcome to Central Park. And we're fucking Jersey. But who cares? Because they're shooting a DVD for Korea, right?
Is that Hyde Park?
I don't know where it was. It was in Jersey. That's as Jersey technical as I get. And here's the thing. One of the acts that we had was the Village People.
Oh, dear Lord.
You know, dear Lord, you know, out of all the variety acts that we'd had all fucking day and night with the Village People. Now there's got to be at least 80,000 people out on this field, you know, close to 100K. And we get the Village People out there. What do you think of that guy? The guy's got, first off, he had one case that had all the mic stands in it. And he had a piece of tape on it that said 1 of 1. I said, listen, Chief, I got news for you. If it's 1 of 1,
there was a chief.
It's 1, you know, all you got is 1. It's not 1 of 1. It's fucking 1. First off. Second thing is that all he had was a CD, one CD for the Village People. And we got the YMC, 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 just skipping. And that was the end of the show. First song, you know, how many things you got to do? You had enough time to put 1 of 1 on one fucking case, but you got no time to get yourself a second CD, you know, how about a card? How about a thumb drive? How about an anything, you know? I mean, come on, man, join the earth to fucking step up the program, man. I mean, I'm the one on the dope and you're the one fucking it up. I mean, what is going on here, Chief? That's what I'm saying.
You keep saying chief. There was a chief in the band.
Oh man, I'll you know, Mr. Walker is not shy to rip into you if you're fucking this thing up.
What's your how many New Year's Eve things have you done?
Too many, and I'll never do another. Martin,
really?
Yeah, chalk it down on that.
What was that? CNN break it, or did Dick Clark mess you up, or what was all that about?
You know, I just had enough.
Peter, I've got a quick one.
Let's hear it, baby.
So I recently did a church gig and I used a in-ear monitor for the first time and I really liked it. What would you recommend if I wanted to buy one?
Cowbell.
My recommendation is that I don't know. I only know the units that I deal with, which are the Shure PSM, whatever number that is up to at this point. And let me say, I'll tell you a couple things about in-ear monitors, right? Solves a problem, creates a problem, right? It solves the problem by having noise on stage that you don't want to introduce into the acoustical environment, right? And it creates a problem by isolating you from the acoustical environment, you know, so you gotta, step one is always put out some audience mics and feed them into the ears, right? So you have some kind of ambience in there, so you're not shut in like a studio. And that is with whatever you get. I would say that anything that you're going to buy is, you know, without knowing anything about whatever entry level is probably going to sound pretty good. Another thing I'll say about wireless, which is very important, is that people fuck up by setting up their wireless by turning up the transmitters too high. Yeah. The trick is to turn the transmitter down, right? Because what happens when you're turning that transmitter up is now you're introducing it into this big, wider environment that you don't want interfering with you, right? You'll want to turn the transmitter down and to as low as possible. Just you're beaming it as far as you need to, and that's it. And that's how you get away with not picking up interference and not having to bring in you know, the nonsense that I deal with. I mean, I show up at a gig, man, we have a team of, you know, we guys do coordination and guys that are sweeping and scanning and you know, the thing about wireless in the entertainment business is that there is no lobby. Shure and Sennheiser and everybody involved in the wireless entertainment business, nobody has a lobbying for frequencies for them. You know, so they are getting crushed and crushed out. I know that the last TV upgrade broadcast, whatever, took a bunch of frequencies from them. It's not something I deal with. I mean, I only deal with the physical packs, you know, and the physical sending it to the artist, you know. But
Well, back in the day, they had the amps that they would pick up the AM radio signals and stuff, and you know, you'd actually picking up radio signals from the stage. You never had that happen to you?
oh yeah, I mean, I did a pilot show on for MTV on the roof of the World Trade Center building, and every single piece of audio was unusable because every cable was acting as an antenna, picking up
Wow.
everything in New York City. You know, if you never went to the top of the World Trade Center when they were standing, you were looking down at airplane traffic. That's how
Dear
tall
Lord.
that's how tall those buildings were.
Well,
You know,
did they broadcast off the top of that building too, like a radio? or
not
anything?
that day.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'll say this. One of the towers had all the antennas on it, and the other one did not, because there was some kind of incident where NYFD had to land, and they got down. The story told to me was they used chainsaws and cut the antennas to land a helicopter. So there was a helicopter pad on one tower, but there was not on the other. And I don't remember if what north or south, but I remember this, that the MTV show was they had a bunch of Sherpas that put a band together, and one of the swear to God, and this is their mindset over at MTV, and they got a goat from a petting zoo, and they wanted the goat to be on the roof with them, but the only way to get up get to the roof was on an escalator. You know, that was the final stepway, right? And the goat kept fainting every time, you know. So we're wasting hours while this fucking goat is fainting that they can't get on the escalator, while we're all standing around with audio that we can't use. You know,
It's amazing.
yeah, New York City in a nutshell, you know.
Well, they have those goats that faint when they're scared, right?
Apparently this was one of them, or you know,
Okay.
maybe he was afraid of heights.
Out of his element, Bob.
Yeah, out of his element, you know.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, that's
You
life.
wrote a book. You have wrote a book?
I did, and I wouldn't write it again today. So I'm glad I did it when I did.
Wow.
You know, I'm glad I did it when I did. I'm writing 5 books right now simultaneously, which
Wow.
sucks a lot of my effort and time. As you know, I work on one thing, I move to the other, and move to the other, and my next one will be coming out in a couple months.
Wow. Has Hollywood ever asked you to be a consultant to give them some platitude, what they should be doing during a movie production, maybe, or something like that?
You know, the thing about me is that I'm pretty blunt, and if you ask me questions, you're getting my answer unfiltered and you know, straight up as I'm talking to you right now.
Right.
And the thing is that when I'm at work, I treat everybody the same. You know, whether you're Paul McCartney or you're taking out the trash, I absolutely treat everybody the same.
Cool.
And it's easy for me that way because I don't have to ramp up and down. And I just think it's a good way of dealing with people. You know, that said, not everybody appreciates that. You know, some people don't dig that, think that they are floating above us and need to be treated a certain way.
Okay.
And I just don't swing that way, you know.
BMW drivers.
BMW, what about them?
Well, BMW drivers are pretty aggressive. That's what I just said. Put the ball in the same group.
Yeah, I drive aggressively too. So,
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm guilty. I've got a Mercedes sports car.
Really?
Downstairs. That's pretty dangerous for me to be behind the wheel of. But
Wicked. You got any hyper cars? No.
no, I've just got that in my Pathfinder. You know, I got a couple Harleys.
I drive a Nissan as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not in. You know what, guys? Here's the truth, right? I'm not into
Vanity.
any stupid expensive hobbies. You know, I don't drink alcohol, and I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't gamble.
Right on.
I don't collect anything. I don't wear jewelry. I don't, I own my guitars. I don't, I'm not, here's the thing, guys, we could all relate to this, right? When you're when you're a young guy and you're coming up, you're always chasing something. You're chasing the gig, you're chasing the chick, you're chasing the dream that you have. You're always in this fucking chase mode,
Right.
which is what men do. We put our lives together, put our family together, do that kind of thing, and we chase it. And I had an epiphany at one point that I run through the cycle of wanting something and chasing after it, then getting it and not giving a shit about it, and then moving on to the next thing that I'm running after. And at some point I just said, fuck it. And I'm where I want to be in life. So that being said, I'm not chasing anything.
Cool.
And as like my wife says, how much rice could you eat?
Oh, so
And
you're married.
oh yeah.
Oh, but the last question I was going to ask is about the groupies. Look at him laugh. That's hilarious.
I'll say this. I'll say this, that back in the 80s, it was everything that you thought it was.
Wow.
It was everything that you thought it was. It was off the hook. And to that I was a young guy, and I I was a young
He
guy,
laughs.
and I mean, I was just with different women every night in every city, and that's just how it was.
Okay.
And yeah, go ahead, Brian. What do you got?
I'll just read the book.
Oh,
Read the book.
Read the book. Okay.
the book is more graphic than I would ever write it today, and it is, because it's just what it is. It's just how the stories went down, and it was wild, and it was, and I'm on my third and final wife right now. I say the first two were just
Congratulations.
rehearsals. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, that's just rock and roll stories, man. And what the funny part about it is, every show's got a million different stories of how people had to get there, how they got home, what happened during the show. I mean, it is really, fandom is real. That's what I always say about sort of things like that.
Oh yeah, when I hear people bring up that that Trump quote, that there are some women who are so enamored with fortune and fame that they will let you walk right up to them and grab them by the pussy. That is 100% true.
Wow.
I mean, that is 100% true. I had women throwing themselves on me for a decade when I was playing nightclubs. Because the thing is that the groupies that go to the Motley Crue show, the groupies that go to the Guns N' Roses, the groupies that go to this show, what do you think they're doing the rest of the year when the big arena shows are not in town? They're out in the nightclubs. They are out sharks in spandex with Aquanet in their hair, out surfing for men. And it's just how it was. And God bless them. And I say this, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. These women were so fierce and would out party me, out fuck me, out everything me to the end, and every time. They were unstoppable. And they would
Now
get
they're
up the next day and go to work. Yeah.
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 I'm a
Wow.
drummer. I get all the fat chicks.
Hey, I like those
God
girls.
Bless you. God bless you. That's
a lot
a
of
good
curves.
man. That's a good man.
I don't know if I've mentioned this in a previous, Zoom or not, Peter, but we had a term for those girls. But these girls, we called them spooks because they're just like so off the charts hot, and they had the spandex and the Aquanet and all that. But we only saw them at night. They only came out at night, so we called them spooks.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I'll say two things on that. First off, they were out during the day, but you didn't recognize them without the makeup and the spandex and without the hair. That's percentage true, right? And the second point was about the chicks. I don't remember. I remember what the second point was.
Wow.
It was a strange, bizarre time.
Oh,
Right on.
I remember the second point. The second point was that when you went to a town and you played there 4 nights, the the girls got better looking as the week went on. You know, the Wednesday, Thursday girls knew about the Friday, Saturday girls that would be coming out. So they try to latch onto you, you know. And the thing that was weird too is knowing other bands and knowing other guys in other bands were sleeping with the same women that you were. And, you know, it's like, okay, who do you sleeping with in Jacksonville? And you know, who are you sleeping with in Raleigh? And who, you know, are you with this girl? You know, and that's just how it was, man, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't, you know, I'm thankful for all those good times on everyone's part, you know.
What do you think your backstage pass collection's worth? Got to get that appraised for insurance.
I've never considered it.
You've been on
Susie.
eBay, right? Hey, Susie.
What's that?
Hey, I have time for a couple quick. I mean, one's really super quick.
Come on, Susie,
It ties
ask
back
away,
into
man.
everything. Okay,
Let's hear it.
so I spent a ridiculous amount of money and went to the stadium tour this year. We were talking about the ridiculous amounts they're charging for tickets. I did it. I splurged, but I hadn't seen any of the 4 bands that were there. So I've marked it up as X amount for each band to justify in my head why I did it.
Sure.
So one of the major complaints I heard, not that I felt it because I was sitting in good seats, but one of the major complaints I heard was sound. They said that everybody's sound was good, but Motley's. Do you think it was rigged that way to cover Vince's voice? Or do you think that they honestly had bad sound and didn't realize it?
Excellent question.
Thank you.
And I'll tell you 100% what the problem is. It's the person behind the mixing console. And that's what it's all about. It's not about the car. It's about who is the driver. And, you know, as a system tech, you could put up the biggest, baddest ass sound in a system in the world. But if you let some moron get up there and push the knobs and dig himself a hole and not, what I say to the kids today, look up from the computer and use the force, Luke. Look up at the stage. Look at the stage. Look at the people playing instruments. Do you hear what he's doing? Look at him. Can you hear what he's doing? Look around. Can you hear what everyone match the visual to the audio before, and you look up from the surface. The biggest problem I have with people mixing today, especially the young guys, is that they're so focused on the technology. They're so sucked into the technology. They're so into all these nuances, which is great and it's needed to a point, but they completely lose the scope of your job purpose. Purpose number 1, to get what that person on that stage is doing and deliver it to the people in every one of these seats. Mission 1, right? That if you got a guy up there and he's holding a little thing, he's shaking it, and you ain't hearing it, it's a problem, you know? And you got a guy hitting cymbals, you ain't hearing them, it's a problem, you know? And to have it proper in every seat. Now, when you say the other 3 bands sounded great, one band that sounded shitty, I'll tell you what that's all about. that
might be politics. Is there politics?
Where not anymore. Not anymore. It used to be.
Okay.
It used to be, you know, I've been dicked by the headliner. I've been the headliner being a dick. I've been a dick many times, sabotaging other people's PA right in front of them.
Okay.
You know.
Have you ever done an Ozfest or anything like that?
My buddy was tour manager for them the year that Black Sabbath, I think it had to be 2001.
That was yeah, I went and bootlegged all that for like 1999 up to 2004. I
know this. I had a badass I had a badass Black Sabbath tour jacket that they gave me. That was like an old school satin style, like an 80s style, you know.
Wicked.
And it had like that Master Reality font on the back of it. And I loved it. I loved that jacket. And I came home one day, my fucking wife was painting it. It got paint all over it. Bitch, I'm still pissed about that jacket.
That was his favorite windbreaker.
I love that jacket.
Give me a funny Motley story before my phone dies.
Susie, I wish I had a Motley story, but I actually don't. You know, I've never done a show with Motley Crue. I got my adopted son a job with them as a monitor tech, and he toured with them, and he's got some funny Motley Crue stories, um, which I don't remember at the moment. but
They
me, I've never dealt with them.
they got John 5 in their tour now.
I'm seeing him in August again.
Nice. I support that. You know, I support you going out seeing them. I support you seeing any. You know what, guys, I love a good tribute band. You know, I'm all for some band out there and doing a tribute and local band doing their thing. You know, where I live in upstate New York, we don't have this kind of animal. Doesn't exist.
Really?
Yeah.
There's I live in a tiny little rural town in Texas, if you can't tell by my accent. And I drive 60 miles, and I would say probably 3 times a year, a Kill 'Em All, it's a Metallica tribute band, comes down to the town 60 miles away, plays for an hour and a half, and they have a friend of mine who does their opening act. And we go every time, and I would probably rather see them than Metallica in realism.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. You know, because these are guys that are doing it because they want to be there and they're interested in doing it. You know, the fan base that comes out there, they want to be there. They're interested in doing it, you know, and there you are. You paid your ticket, you went in, you're watching these guys. There they are, they're on the stage looking right at you eye to eye. There's something about not having that corporate layer in between you and the entertainment, you know,
Yeah.
where it's just a more of an intimate thing. The best shows I ever saw in my life were all in nightclubs, every single one of them. You know, I mean, I've seen some great arena performances, and but as far as performances, you know, nightclubs, down and dirty, face to face with the audience, you know, and it was always good to get, always easy to get a club to sound good. You know, I'll say that.
But you didn't ask. You didn't answer. How much do you think your backstage pass collection's worth?
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, well, first off, they're not for sale. Second off is there's over 800 on the wall, and I've worn every one of them.
Wow.
You know, and it's the one thing that I always kept through the years. You know, I kept every pass that I ever wore. I didn't keep them all because I had someone steal a fuckload from me at one point. And there's, you know, probably a couple thousand shows that I've done that I didn't have a pass for. You know, and some passes are from a day and some passes are from a year, you know, so they all represent different pieces of time. And without them, most of these shows wouldn't exist. Wouldn't exist for me. I mean, even most of the passes, I could look at them and if not for that, I would never know that that I was ever there. Ryan, what do you got?
I've got a Motley story, if
Fire
you
away.
guys want me to share it. Okay,
Yeah,
so
shoot.
this is going back to when I was in high school. So I got into those guys from day one when the first album came out.
Yeah, beautiful.
I was a senior in high school, and I had these two hot freshmen that were just like head over heels for me, because I was just like a metal guy, whatever. And so I turned one on the Iron Maiden, and another one I turned on the Motley Crue. And at this time, it Shout at the Devil. So then, you know, I graduate high school. The Theater of Pain tour rolls through town, and they're playing Reunion Arena in Dallas. So if you go back and you take a look at the Home Sweet Home video, they recorded a lot of the footage from Home Sweet Home at the Reunion Arena show in 85, I guess it was, October or something like that.
Right.
So I'm walking up to the show, and I just happened to come across those two girls who are now sophomores. And I was out of high school, and one came up to her, Brian, I got backstage. I said, well, how'd you get backstage? She goes, well, I saw Vince down by the buses, because there was a bridge. there was a bridge area, and you know, the buses were low. And I said, okay, well, what did you do? She goes, I went like this. I was like, okay, so
That'll get you in.
yeah. So here's a 14, 15-year-old now she's got backstage credentials at the Motley Crue show. Keep in mind, they filmed the Home Sweet Home video at the Motley Crue show in Dallas. A lot of the footage from the quote uncensored home video that came out in '85 that had the VHS tape, and the cover was like a plastic, was like a paper bag wrapper, and it was stamped and said uncensored. A lot of that was filmed there at Reunion Arena. And so, they do their thing and all that. And then the video gets released, I don't know how many months later. And my two friends, they bought the video, and they were so excited to see the video because they were there. And so they're watching the video, and, a bunch of TNA throughout the entire video. Then at the very, very end, they're backstage. And sure enough, here's the girl on film, not realizing she's on film, and they freak out.
She's underage.
She's underage, and she's on this video that's been mass produced. And the funny thing is like mom of one of the girls, hey, well, when you guys get done watching it, bring it on over so we can watch it. And
oh dear Lord.
And as soon as that scene at the very, very end, because she was wearing a Jackie Lee tank top from the Bark at the Moon tour. So if you want to watch the video, she's a blonde. And she was very pale. I'll just leave it at that.
I'm going to pass on watching the teenager dress, but thank you for the invite.
And so they destroyed the tape and told their mom, oh, the VHS tape ate, the VHS machine ate the tape. It's just so funny that I find that video hasn't been re-released. And I'm just, oh, well.
Well, the number one rule of television is we got to get all the good looking people to the front and all the ugly people to the back. And that is 100% the rule.
Yeah.
And I tell you, when I was at MSG, we had Jeopardy come in. And I got my wife and her friend tickets, right? And just tickets from the box up from the house. And they were like, 35, 40 rows back. So I got them in. I said, all right, baby, I'll see you after the show. So I go down to the stage level, and the way we do Jeopardy, it's Jeopardy. No, Wheel of Fortune.
Okay.
It's the same production, same company. So I go down the stage and fucking around doing my thing. I turn around and come back, and there's my wife and her friends sitting in the front row. I'm like, whoa. How'd you get here? He goes, oh, some guy came with a clipboard, and he said, no, we're moving you. And they brought me out of here. I said, really? I said, yeah, they gave us tickets for the whole week. I said, really?
Wow.
And that's how that goes, man. That's how that goes. And that's
back
the
in the day,
of it,
we would rush the stage. We'd be jumping over rows of chairs trying to get closer to the stage when they, that's how pretty much shows like that went.
Yeah. Guys, this is good time. I'm going to do this again next week, Wednesday the 4th, because it's great to talk to everyone and hear everyone's perspective and this and that. And I would do it on a regular basis, but I just can't time commit. That's the thing about it, and I appreciate you guys hanging out with me.
I had a good time
doing the thing, man.
I'm really glad you did this tonight, because it's been a while. And so I was really happy to see that you posted that. It's like, man, I'm going to make time to be there. I got to support.
Yeah. I dig talking to people, period, and especially people that are outside of my circle and from different backgrounds and different things. And, for the most part, we're all working class people, similar age groups and such, it's all good,
Right on. We all shared the same history.
Thank you.
Damn near. Guys, good times, man. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful night, man.
You guys all take care.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Cheers.
Bye.